The reality is you get what you are. But working on getting beyond your story is necessary for you to live the life you deserve. Welcome to my channel, Closer to Your Higher Self. My name is Jerome, and I want to help you create a life you love. Please like and subscribe and share this with anyone that needs to hear it. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, my information is in the description. And there's also a free guided meditation to help you work with negative thoughts. The link for that is also in the description. So what's your story? Have you ever heard anyone say that? What do you think of when I say that? Well, most likely you think of what's happened in the past. And it's holding on to that past that keeps a lot of us from progressing. See, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between something real and something imagined. So when you tell that old story, you feel the feelings that you had at that time. And those feelings don't create a frequency that's going to draw positive things to you. Have you ever been on a date with someone and you ask them about themselves and they get to the exes? And it's almost like they can't wait to get there. You get to hear about how psycho they are or some profanity-laden name or description. And are you thinking, wow, I just found my person? No, you're probably thinking, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And when you tell that story about the ex, you have to feel it. Because if you feel it, you know other people will sympathize with you. So as you're telling your story, it's like you're telling yourself, I got to tell it really good so they can feel it and they can know how much I suffered. And then they'll be on my side. But the problem is you relive that story over and over again, years after it happened. And studies show that the more you tell the story, the more you add. You want to make it better and better. And before you know it, that story is so much worse than what originally happened. So not only are you feeling the story, you're feeling this turbocharged version of it. And you're feeling it as though it's really happening every time you tell it. And you really don't even need a person to tell the story to. You tell it to yourself over and over again, making it worse each time. And then you say, okay, universe, I'm ready for my person. And the universe is like, no, you're not. You're still obsessed with ramped up versions of stories about your ex or exes. Now, I'm kidding about the universe saying this. This is not some kind of punishment. The reality is you get what you are. You're drawing things to yourself based on the frequency that you're broadcasting. If that frequency is negative, it's probably best that you spend some time alone working on yourself. Because it's too easy to become the story. Once you become the story, you look for ways to reinforce it. So you can say, see, I told you. And understand that. You become the story. It's almost like you meet someone and instead of saying your name, you say, hi, I've been wronged by everyone in my past and I expect the future to be the same. And people can feel this. You don't really need to say anything. The same way you've met people and there's just something about them you do or don't like. You don't know what it is. You just know there's something about that person. In that same way, the next person that's going to wrong you feels your energy and thinks, hey, there's my next victim. And you get more experiences that reinforce the belief that everyone mistreats you. Here's an example of something that's played out in almost everyone's life. You're driving along, minding your own business, and someone cuts you off. And in your mind, you're like, what? I know he didn't just cut me off. And now your mind is off to the races. You start thinking of all the things you would say to that person. And that's if you don't try to catch up to them and cut them off. You make yourself more and more upset, spreading your negativity around. And you're certainly not going to let anyone else in front of you. And why is this happening? Because you created this story in your mind where this person sought you out to cut you off. You made it personal. You said, oh, there's Jerome. Let's cut him off and ruin his day. He doesn't deserve peace and calm. You might even take this story to work with you. And sometimes you can still feel this 30 minutes or an hour later. And you know why it lasts so long? Because you keep amplifying the story. Each time it gets worse. And this has actually been studied. Do you know how long that feeling would last if you didn't keep it going? 90 seconds. 90 seconds. You lost an hour of your life for what should have taken 90 seconds. Now stretch that out. And that's what many of us are doing by not letting go of the story. And I'm not suggesting that you pretend things didn't happen to you. I'm saying work on taking the emotional charge out of it. The emotional charge is what's causing you to feel it over and over again each time you tell the story. Without the emotional charge, it becomes an event that happened in your life. And maybe you learned something from this experience. And it becomes a page in the book of your life and not a book in itself. And I don't mean to sound insensitive. I know that some of the things people have experienced are not as easy to deal with as someone cutting you off in traffic. But working on getting beyond your story is necessary for you to live the life you deserve. And the person that hurt you doesn't deserve to have that power over your life. Now, I've had firsthand experience with this. I had some ex stories, and I had some good ones. I never called anyone psycho. I don't believe in that. But at a point, I knew I had to move on. These stories were affecting me and keeping me from being happy. So I decided not to tell those stories anymore. Why? Because I'm a different person now. The person that those stories happened to are in an older chapter of the book. So how do you work on taking the charge out of those events? One way is by realizing that people have flaws. The person that mistreated you was probably mistreated by someone else. Have you ever heard the saying, hurt people hurt people? In many cases, that's what you're dealing with. It doesn't excuse anyone's behavior, and it doesn't mean that this person deserves to be in your life. But people can fall into a cycle and do the things that were done to them. When I look back, I could say that some of those people simply couldn't help it. They weren't strong enough to get past those cycles. So I asked myself what I could learn from these experiences and what could make me a better person. And this is not victim blaming, but I had to think about who I needed to be in order to not have the same experiences. The main reason that your story keeps you stuck is because you're focused on what happened in the past. Thinking so much about what happened in the past pushes that past into your future. And you don't even realize it. You'll say, oh, well, that's just the way my life is, or I'm unlucky. And I'll say it one more time. So write this down if it resonates with you, because it can save you a lot of time and energy. Staying stuck in your past pushes that past into your future. You have to be willing to get beyond your past. And how do you get beyond the past? By creating a new story, one that you can feel before it even happens. Remember, your subconscious doesn't know the difference. If you're looking for love, how does it feel? What kinds of things would you do with this love? How would this person treat you? Now you're rewriting your story. And those things that happened in the past were just lessons or stepping stones to get you where you are now. Health is an area where not being able to get past your story keeps you stuck. When someone is trying to be more healthy, lose weight, etc., the faster we can change that old story, that old mindset, the faster they will have success. One of the best things you can do is visualize yourself the way you want to be. Whether it's weighing less, being more toned, able to run a 5K, whatever it is. Now, if instead you see yourself as the same, someone who settles down on the couch at night to Netflix and chill with a pint of ice cream, your progress is going to be very slow. In your mind, create a little movie where you've already made the progress that you want. See people congratulating you. See yourself in those new clothes. Imagine how strong and healthy you're going to feel. Money stories also hold us back, but sometimes they're a little different. But some of us are more eager to tell our relationship stories, but a lot of times we keep the money stories to ourselves. We tell ourselves the stories. And they're like little automatic programs. And how do you know if you have these little automatic programs running? Well, one way is if you function as what I call even Steven. Now, I got this from an episode of Seinfeld. In this episode, Jerry's neighbor Kramer noticed that things always evened out for Jerry in money, opportunities, relationships, etc. Now, to prove it, Kramer says, "Hey, Jerry, give me $20. So Jerry gives him a 20. He proceeds to crumple it up and throw it out the window. And a little later, one of Jerry's friends shows up and says, "Oh, hey, by the way, here's that $20 I owe you." Thus proving Kramer's theory that Jerry is even Steven. Now, that was pretty funny, but what I call even Steven is when someone stays stuck on the same level. Do you find that you always seem to make the same amount of money? Or you may make a little more, but you have to spend a little more? Always staying kind of the same. This can happen if you're telling yourself a money story. A story that says there's never enough money. A story of the past. And what happens? You push that past into your future. Let the money story stay in the past if it's not serving you. Create a new story and push that story into your future. Imagine yourself in a better job, driving that new car, being able to go to nice restaurants. Feel that feeling of contentment that you have when doing those things. And actually try to see it like a little movie in your mind. Do this just before you go to sleep at night, or when you wake up in the morning, and both is even better. Try this for a little while and see how things start to change. But remember, you have to let go of the old story. When it tries to creep in, stop it and play your new story. So like and subscribe and tell me about your new story in the comments. You guys have been leaving some great comments with some very inspirational stories. So please continue to do that. Take care, and I'll see you next time on Closer to Your Higher Self.